Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well. What I'm going to take you through is worked out solutions to this practice quiz. If you can master this practice quiz, you're going to do great on the quiz at the end of this week, okay? As usual, email me with any questions you have. I'd love to help you. And let's go ahead and get started. So let's scroll down to the first one. This is multiple choice here. You're not going to have multiple choice on your quiz at the end of the week, but we can still make this one work. So this one says sketch the graph of the equation y equals negative 3x squared. So the first thing I want to remind you of is the parent function, which is y equals x squared, okay? So what we are concerned about is how this compares to the parent function. So first of all, since it's negative, it's going to flip down, okay? So we know it's going to be facing down. And then the fact that your a value, now I know a is negative 3, but when you ignore the negatives, the fact that it's a 3, which is greater than 1, so we would say the absolute value of a. The absolute value of a is 3, means that it's going to be a stretch, or we would call it narrow. So that means it's going to be tall and skinny, okay? So if I'm looking here, well, this one's a pretty easy one. There's only one graph that's facing down, and that would be B. Okay, so our whole focus here is to focus on that A value. Now, the reason why I was able to graph this one so quickly and not have to do, my line of symmetry formula, which is x equals negative B over 2A, is because this is a very easy quadratic. There's only an A value. B and C are 0. B is 0 and C is 0. Now you could choose to do it the way we've been doing most recently, x equals negative B over 2A, and then you would get, it would be negative 0 over 2 times negative 3, and then that would give you a 0. So your line of symmetry would be at 0, so x equals 0. Okay, remember, always put x equals. And then your vertex is going to be at 0, comma, whatever you get when you plug it in. So I'm going to plug in 0. When I plug in 0 into this equation, my y value is going to be 0. So my vertex is at 0, 0. My line of symmetry is at 0. And then it's facing down. So that would be B. Okay, let's go ahead and do the next one. How would you change the graph of y equals x squared, that's the parent function, to produce the graph of y equals x squared minus 5? So again, guys, this is from one of the earlier units before we were doing line of symmetry and all that. There's no b value, just like in the first one. There's no b value. When there's no b value, you can make it very simple. Your parent function is always going to be at 0, 0 facing up. Okay. The vertex is always going to be at 0, 0 and it's facing up. Now I can see my a on the graph that's changed. My a value is still 1, so it's still facing up, but it's a minus 5. So that means it's just going to move down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my new graph would simply be, I'll do it in pink. It's not a stretch, it's not a shrink, okay? It's just moved down 5. Boom. Okay. So by the way, so stretch is also another word for narrow, and then shrink is also another word for wide, okay? So for example, and a stretch is going to be when your a value, the absolute value of a is greater than 1. And then a shrink or wide is going to be when the absolute value of a is less than 1. Okay. So a stretch would be tall and skinny. And then a shrink would be short and wide. So I exaggerated both. The vocab is what you need for the test. Okay, let's move on to number 3. All right, graph this equation. Now this is a multiple choice. Now this one's going to take more work because there's a b value. The only way I can do this is using my line of symmetry formula and then plugging that back in. Okay, there's no shortcut like I was able to do in 1 and 2. So I'm going to get to it. So, sorry, I'm just checking back up. Okay, so it should be, or it will be, your line of symmetry formula is x equals negative b over 2a. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm also going to label my A, B's, and C's. You guys know I'm so bad at messing up my A, B's, and C's. So A is 4, B is 5, C is 4. Okay. So my line of symmetry would be x equals negative 5 over 2 times 4. Wow, this got real ugly. Okay, so this is a negative 5 over 8. Okay. Ew. So let's go ahead and turn that into a decimal. I think that'll just make things a little easier here. 0.625. So my line of symmetry is at negative 0.625. Okay, guys, on your test, you do have to put x equals and then whatever your line of symmetry is. If you don't put the x equals, you're going to be counted wrong. Very important to put x equals. All right, so since this is multiple choice, I know my vertex has to be in the x is negative. Here x is positive, so I'm going to immediately cross this one off. Here my vertex x value is positive, so that one's crossed off. So it's in between a and b. So here I can see my y value of the vertex is positive. Here my y value of the vertex is negative. So let's see which one it is. So yes, I'm going to have to plug this ugly number back in here. If you're careful, it's going to be okay. So y equals, and I'm going to keep it as a decimal because it terminates. So it's okay to leave it as that number. So negative 0.625 squared. Looks like I'm going to have to take up 2 lines. Plus 5 times negative 0.625, and then a plus 4. Okay, so let's see what we get. So this will equal, so I'm going to square 0.625. And yes, I know it's negative, but anything negative squared turns positive. So that turns into 4 times 0.390625. 0.390625 plus 5 times negatives. Okay, so 5 times negative 0.625. So that actually turns into a minus. Minus 3.125 and then plus 4. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and multiply 4 times this decimal here. 4 times, so that's going to give me 1.5625. I did 4 times 0.390625, so that gives me 1.5625, and then minus 3.125 plus 4. All right, I'm going to enter this all in my calculator and just get this over with. So this would give me minus 3.125 plus 4, and I get a positive number, 2.4375. Okay, so guys, my vertex is at, and I know these are ugly numbers. If you can master ugly numbers, that means you can do easy ones. So my vertex is at negative 0.625, comma, 2.4375. So I said it was in between A and B, and looks like A My y value is positive, 1, 2, 2.4-ish, so it's got to be A. Now, if you're really good and you're like, Miss Cunningham, you did not have to find the y value of the vertex. You could have just seen the y-intercept and bypassed so much. Then good for you. Remember, guys, your y-intercept is always going to be, it's a coordinate pair, 0, comma, whatever your c value is. So in this case, it would be 0, comma, my c value is 4. So you could check your y-axis and see where it's hitting at 4. Okay, so A would work. B would not work. It's hitting at -4. So B would immediately not work. D would not work. C is hitting 4, but it doesn't satisfy the graph because of the x value of the vertex. So if you can use a y-intercept, use it. All right, let's keep moving. Okay, graph, label the vertex and line of symmetry. Okay, so what's going to happen on the test is you're not going to be asked to graph, but you're going to be asked to find 3 things. Find the line of symmetry, find the vertex, and then find the y-intercept, okay? Or you're going to have to identify graphs. So let's see, find your line of symmetry. Well, first I'm going to label my A, B, and C. So A is 2, B is -2, and C is 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to it. So y equals -b over 2a. Oh, not y equals, x equals. I'm finding my line of symmetry. X equals -b over 2a. Okay, so then that would be negative, and then my b is a -2. And then 2 times my a, which is another 2. Okay, so 2 negatives make a positive up top, so that's 2 over 4. So that's 1/2. All right, so my line of symmetry is at x equals 1/2. Okay, that's how you would answer it on the test at the end of the week. X equals 1/2. Now let's find the vertex. So the vertex is when you plug it in. I'm going to go ahead and type it. So I'm trying to find my vertex here. So that would be y equals 2. I'm going to put it in as 0.5 squared minus 2 is 0.5 plus 1. So then that would give me equals 2 times 0.5 squared should be 0.25. And then 2 times 1/2 turns into 1, and then plus 1. So then this turns into 2 times 0.25 is 0.5 minus 1 plus 1. And then obviously, guys, if you're seeing the -1 plus 1, those go away. So I'm just left with y equals 0.5. So my vertex is at, looks like 1/2, 1/2. 0.5, comma 0.5. And then your y-intercept is always 0, comma c, and my c value is 1. Okay, so if I were to graph this, my vertex is at 0, 0, or sorry, 0.5, 0.5, which would be right here. I can see I'm facing up, okay, because my a value is 2, so it's going to be a graph facing up. And yes, it's 2 is greater than 1, which would mean, you know, it's going to be narrow or stretch, okay? But you don't have to worry about that so much when you do it using the line of symmetry, but I just wanted to bring up that vocab again. And then your y-intercept is at 0, comma 1, so you can plot your y-intercept, which would be 0, 1, and because you know a graph is perfectly symmetrical, you're going to have a point exactly the same distance on the other side. And then you've got your parabola. Okay, again, guys, you're not going to be graphing on the test, but you are going to be identifying these 3 major points. All right, let's do the next one. Find the coordinates of the vertex and determine whether the graph opens up or down. Okay, let's first determine if it's up or down. You should do that right away. My A, let's identify A, B, and C. So A is -1, B is 1, C is -5. Okay, because it's a negative, it's immediately, I can see that it's opening down. Okay, it's going to be facing down. That's just nice to know. Now let's go ahead and find your vertex, which means you have to do your line of symmetry. So x equals -b over 2 times -1. Oh, come on, Miss Cunningham, you're giving so many fractions. I know fractions are important and your ability to master them is very important. Okay, so my vertex is going to be at 1/2 comma something. So we'll come back to that. We need to find the y value. So to find the y value, you simply plug it in. So that would be y equals -0.5. I'm turning 1/2 into 0.5 squared plus 0.5 minus 5. So that can equal, remember the negative is on the outside, so don't square that. And then 0.5 squared is 0.25 plus a 0.5 and then minus 5. So 0.25, -0.25 plus 0.5 is positive 0.25 minus 5. So then y equals, it looks like -4.75. So that means your vertex is at 1/2, -4.75. And we already established that it is facing down. All right, I have a feeling you guys are doing great. Let's keep going. Graph the quadratic function, label the vertex and axis of symmetry. Okay, so again, guys, we're gonna find the axis of symmetry, find the vertex, find the y-intercept. Okay, let me label my A, B's, and C's so I don't make silly mistakes. A is -2, B is 6, C is 3. Okay, so my line of symmetry would be x equals -b over 2a. Always, always. Writing out the equation just prevents silly little mistakes that we don't want to make. So then it will be -6 over 2 times -2. Oh man, another fraction. Why? So then this is going to give me, I see 2 negatives, so that's going to make it a positive 6 over 4, which is 3 over 2. So your line of symmetry is at 3 over 2. X equals 3 over 2. Okay, that's also 1.5. Go ahead and make it 1.5. It's a nice terminating decimal, so I don't see a problem with that. So your line of symmetry is at x equals 1.5. Okay, now let's find your vertex. So that would be y equals -2, 1.5 squared plus 6 times 1.5 plus 3. So that would give me a -2, and then 1.5 squared is, gosh, I think it's 2.25, but let me just double check. Is 2.25. 2.25 plus 6 times 1.5 is 9 plus 3. All right, so then that would equal -4.5 plus 9 plus 3. -4.5 plus 9 is +4.5 plus 3, which equals 7.5. Woo! All right, so your vertex is 1.5 comma 7.5. And then your y-intercept is always your 0, comma c. So it's 0, comma, my c value is 3. Okay, so all we got to do is simply plot your vertex, which is at 1.5, comma 7.5. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5. Okay, so I'd be here. I should expect it to face down. My y-intercept is at 0, 3. 1, 2, 3. So that means I would have a point the same distance away on the other side. All right, and then you make your parabola. Again, guys, physically graphing is not on your test. However, finding these 3 points is on your test. Okay, moving right along. Just a few more problems. So I clustered all these onto the same page, okay? These tend to scare people because you're going to see the word maximum and minimum. Please don't get afraid of that. Or you're going to see really ugly equations and different variables. Please don't be afraid of that. All right, so let me give you a quick reminder of maximum and minimum, okay? So one's facing up, and parabolas are either facing up or facing down, okay? When we talk about maximum or minimum, I gave you a hint, and I'm saying just find the y value of the vertex. That's it. When you hear the word max or min, it means what is the y value of the vertex? Now, what's the difference between a maximum and a minimum? Okay, well, if it's facing up, your vertex is the lowest point. It's going to be at the smallest point. If it's facing up, it's going to be a minimum. Okay, if it's facing down, we call that a maximum because your vertex is the highest point. It's all about the vertex. It's the single most important part of the graph. We want to know where the vertex is. Okay, one of my lovely students, you guys might know her, Katie. If it's facing up, that's when your A value is positive. You can say it makes a little smiley face. A, positive. If you're positive, you're happy. There's a little smiley face, okay? Then it has the lowest point, the minimum. If it's facing down, it's A value is negative, and it's sad, it's facing down. Anyway, so for all of these 3 values, all we want is the y value of the vertex, okay? So all we're going to be doing over and over again is using the line of symmetry and then plugging back in to find the y value of the vertex. So it's going to be x equals negative b over 2a, okay? Don't let the very fact that you've got different variables here, h is another letter for y, and t is just another thing for x. What they're using is t is time, h is height, okay? They're just changing the variables on you. So you still have an A value, which is negative 16. B is 40. C is 5. Okay. So then if we simplify this out, it would be negative 40 over 2 times negative 16. So this would be, so 2 negatives make a positive, so this would be 40 over 32. And I'm going to turn this into a decimal. 40 over 32, 40 divided by 32 is 1.25. All right, so that's your line of symmetry. That's the x value of the vertex. Let's find the y value. So I'm going to plug that in, okay? So height equals negative 16, and then you're doing 1.25 squared plus 40 times 1.25, and then plus 5. So now I'm just going to simplify this. So negative 16 times whatever 1.25 squared is. It's 1.5625 plus, I'm going to go ahead and multiply 40 times 1.25. I got 50. I like that. Plus 5. I just see up top here, I put an equals instead of a plus. This guy here should be a plus sign. All right, now I'm going to keep cleaning up. So now I'm going to do negative 16 times that decimal. So negative 16 times 1.5625. Oh, I got negative 25. I like that. Plus 50. Okay, so then that'll give me 25 plus 5. Ooh, gives me 30. Ooh, and I'm being texted. All right, so remember, they just want the y value of the vertex. So my answer here, guys, is 30. That's it. All right, number 8, tell whether the function has a minimum or maximum value, then find it. All right, so I can see in 8a, it's facing up because your a value is positive. So I can see that it's going to have a minimum. Okay, I can see that right off the bat. Now let's actually find that. That would be the y value of the vertex. So I'm going to go ahead and label, identify my a, b, and c. So a is 5, b is 0, c is negative 7. So let's do your line of symmetry. X equals negative 0. Oh yes, I already like where this is going. Quite frankly, you don't even need to go on because 0 over anything is going to be 0. So you don't need to like worry about 2 times 5. So my line of symmetry is at 0. Cool. So that means my vertex is at 0 comma something. Even more so, that means I get to plug 0 into the equation. So y equals 5 times 0 squared minus 7. I love 0. 0 squared, 0, that goes away. I'm just left with a negative 7. So that means my minimum value is negative 7. Guys, just because it's a minimum does not mean it has to be negative. Just because it's a maximum doesn't mean it has to be positive. Okay, don't associate those. Minimum means facing up. Maximum means facing down. Okay, let's go down to 8b. Tell whether it has a minimum or a maximum. Okay, so I can see my a value is negative, so it's going to be facing down. So that means my vertex is the highest point, which means it's a maximum. Okay, so a is negative 1, b is 13, c is negative 6. All right, we got to do our line of symmetry. Hopefully you're seeing that that is a very important part of this chapter. It's so important. You cannot leave algebra without knowing it. So I really hope you're getting the idea that I'm stressing it over and over. All right, so this would be negative 13 over 2 times negative 1, which would be 13 over 2, which would be 6.5. Okay, so then I'm going to plug 6.5 into the equation. So y equals negative parentheses 6.5 squared plus 13 times 6.5 minus 6. Okay, so 6.5 squared is 42.25. So y would equal negative 42.25 plus whatever 13 times 6.5 is. So that's 84.5 minus 6. Now, if you're ever noticing that this middle number is usually twice as big as this first number, ignoring the fact that it's negative, that's pretty common. That happens quite a bit. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens quite a bit. Okay, so negative 42.25 plus 84.5 is positive 42.25 minus 6. So 42.25 minus 6 is 36.25. And that, my lovelies, is the answer. So my maximum value for 8b is 36.25. Okay. All right, I think we are near the finish. Write the equation in standard form. This is our last one. So guys, this is me just having you simplify this and make sure it's in a form where you can identify A, B, and C, okay? So what you're gonna do first is you have to do parentheses and exponents. You have to FOIL out x plus 1. So you have to do x plus 1 times x plus 1, okay? You have to FOIL that out. I suggest doing it off to the side and then bring it back to the equation and simplifying it. So x times x is x squared. And then x times 1 is a single x. And then times another single, or 1 times x is just another x. And then 1 times 1 is 1. And then you're going to combine your middle terms, which they're the same in this case because it was a perfect square. So it's going to be x squared plus 2x plus 1. Okay. So all that is going to go back into what's in underlined in parentheses. So it's going to go equals 2 times x squared plus 2x plus 1, close your parentheses, and then a minus 3. Okay, so then that's going to give you 2x squared, because now I'm distributing my 2 through. Okay, so 2x squared plus 4x plus 2, and then this minus 3 at the end. So these are the only two like terms to finish off with. So I'm left with 2x squared plus 4x minus 3, no, minus 1. Ooh, I almost messed that one up. 2 minus 3 is a negative 1. So this is standard form, and then from here you're able to do A, B, and C value, all right? So I will give you a question like this and ask you to find line of symmetry, vertex, and y-intercept, okay? The only way to do that is put in standard form first, okay? That is crucial. Once it's in standard form, just do business as usual. So I just want to check my list to make sure I got everything. I mentioned everything that you would possibly see on the quiz this Thursday and Friday. And that's it. It's an open note, open book. And in the meantime, guys, email me with any questions. I'm here for you guys. And if you want to do like a little Zoom session, just email me and we can set something up, okay? I'm here for you. So I miss you all immensely, and I really hope you're doing well. All right. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Bye.